Hello everybody, this is Fernando for the latest Gruesome and Grotesque video. As always, I just do these videos randomly whenever I come across an article or some information that I feel merits posting here on this playlist. Such is the case with this update involving a story I recently talked about, and this was with the gruesome demise of a young family out there in California. They had met their demise because they were out there taking a hike on some of the areas there by the Sierra Nevada mountains, unknowingly pretty much putting themselves into a situation where they were going to have extreme heat come suddenly down upon them. I mean, this is the kind of stuff where it's nice and cool in the morning and then cut to a few hours later and it's well over 100 plus degrees. Very gruesome stuff. Well, this update has to do with confirming that information and the fact that it pretty much showcases their final moment. So I thought I would showcase it here just as one final update for this story. I'll include the link for the other our video that I did in case you haven't had a chance to catch it. But let's go ahead and let's talk about that here. And that's the Gerrish family, who once again fatally met the extreme heat there at the Savage Lundy Trail. So here's the updated information. Police and authorities, those who were tracking initially the whereabouts of this missing family and then also eventually finding them, they were still piecing bits of information together as they were theorizing what had caused their death. This was an interesting story from the get-go because of the unusual circumstances. Even the sheriff's department there at the time stated unusual, unique situation because of the absence of evidence associated with their death. I remember reading at the time that it was just way out there with regards to theories involving carbon monoxide, even gas leaking from surrounding mines, even lightning strikes, even suicides. All that stuff was considered when it came to the death of this young family. But all of that was eventually ruled out. And the idea was that they died of extreme heat exposure. That and then also lack of water. And eventually, the newest update is that the police were finally able to look at the cameras, look at all the information taken from those devices, and it confirmed essentially everything that happened, including their final moment. So this involved again the deaths of 45-year-old Jonathan Gerrish, and then he had a wife, Ellen Chung. She was 35 years old. The most tragic part, though, was involving the daughter by the name of Ariella Chung Gerrish. She was just 1 year old at the time when she was there on that expedition, and she ended up passing away because of the heat exhaustion, and then also their dog eventually died there too. But yes, police were able to track the GPS locations from the phone itself, and here's essentially what it said. It said that on August 15th at 7:44 a.m., that's when the couple must have just arrived there at that location. This is because pictures and video taken on that phone showcase them at the very front of that location, the trailhead, in other words. And then there were more photos taken of the trail 15 minutes later, and then there was yet another photo taken maybe about an hour and a half later at 9:05 a.m. And this was taken by them, showcasing a photo of a river that they were just crossing, a river called Merced River. And then that's when things started to take a little bit more of a twist. Like there were more photos taken past that 9:30 period up until 10:16, and that showcased them taking pictures of themselves as selfies, themselves as a couple, taking more pictures of the river and so on. Remember, this would have been a time period where the temperature was still a-okay. Like it was not that hot yet. It was probably still a little bit more on the cool side. But then obviously when it got to the 11 o'clock and then the noon o'clock period, that's when everything just really turned. In fact, there was a Forest Service volunteer, someone who has done that trail multiple times. In fact, it's about 8 miles long. He's done it over 1,000 times. He said that anyone that comes out there, just like this family, and risks themselves not getting ahead of time when it comes to the info they need, they'll be completely unaware of the dangers involved. For example, he stated that the temperatures there will soar above 100 plus degrees. In fact, In the morning, it's in the high 70s, nice and cool, right? But then in the afternoon, it's 109 degrees, and that's how quickly it happens. And unfortunately for this family, when they were out there, there was also a recent fire that had covered much of the forest, so there was very little shade left. All that was left was just basically the trees, if anything, themselves. And so there's very little shade to get under. And so he said anyone out there unaware of these dangers could easily face hypothermia, could easily face other factors involving not having water. In fact, he was stating that they carried with them just a small backpack, a sippy cup, and then 2.5 liter reservoir for water. And it's including the idea that they even filled it with the 2.5 liters of water. Imagine if it was only filled halfway, themselves thinking that everything was going to be okay with that. That would have made it even worse. In fact, he recommended that if you're out there, you must carry at least a liter of water for every hour that you're going to be out there in the hot sun. Otherwise, you risk essentially what happened to this family. But yes, the final moments were this. Apparently, photos stopped after 10:16 a.m. and then the last set of photos started again, this time at around 12:25, with the very last one showcasing a screenshot of the couple's location from an app they were using, some kind of hiking app. I'm guessing they were doing this because they wanted to showcase one last time what their location was exactly, in other words. And in fact, that's what the authorities were stating. They were piecing everything that they had theorized before, especially when it came to their whereabouts and where they went to. It was corroborated with the location from the phone and the GPS tracking that was on there. And then it was also the photos and the videos that they were taking as well. And then that's when things take another turn, because there were texts that were sent between the couple and others out there to try to see what was happening. So if the last photo was taken at 12:25, after that there were around 6 attempted phone calls made. None of them, though, went out. 6 phone calls and text messages, and the last one was sent at 12:36 p.m. Unfortunately, none of them were sent out, in other words, to be received, because there was no reception there at all. It was very, very poor. That is such a remote area. There's absolutely no chance that this stuff would have been sent. And so you can see that the last moments of them involved taking the photos, taking one last photo, then finally resorting to phone calls, and then finally resorting to text messages, and nothing was helping them at this point. The very, very final thing was Mr. Gerrish. He was stated a message, and this was to someone whose name was redacted when it came to the recipient was, and it stated, "Name redacted, can you help us on Savage Lundy Trail, heading back to Heights Cove Trail, no water, heating with baby." And then that was it. That was the very last instance of any communication between them and the outside world. And that was, of course, not received anywhere else. So their last chance, their last hope when it came to this, never got answered. They basically ended up dying of hypothermia, lack of water, and I'm sure other stuff associated with extreme temperatures, how the body begins shutting down at that point. So very sad stuff overall, because to me it's horribly tragic. Imagine something like this where you go out there in the morning, you're out there and as a family, you're taking pictures, you think everything's going to be okay, right? This stuff doesn't happen to you. It always happens to others out there. And yet in a short time period, because they were so unprepared, they were so naive when it comes to the conditions out there, they thought they could just hike around and then everything would be good and they'd be back to their car or vehicle afterward and then catch the rest of the day, eating somewhere and so on. But no, they just weren't able to come back and make it in time when it came to beating the heat, when it came to the lack of water and then the extreme conditions, 109 degrees. I've been in Vegas before where it's been super hot out there. I mean, the sun was just blazing. It was well over 100 plus degrees. It does get hot, obviously, and that's the kind of stuff that can impact you. And so I could just totally imagine here them looking out there in that trail, just seeing endless trail, no chance, no hope of being able to make it back in time, but still frantically trying to send these messages until they couldn't anymore. All around, just a very, very sad situation. But yeah, just wanted to post one last video with regards to it, to the case of this Gerrish family, confirming everything that was mentioned before by authorities. They died of extreme heat, the hypothermia, the lack of water, and other conditions associated with that. And now they have the records showcasing that too, as far as their locations and then the photographs and so on. But if anybody has any more info, anything else I might have missed, then please post those comments below. What about those of you that have gone there to that trail specifically? If you know exactly the one I'm talking about, this Savage Lundy Trail, I'd love to hear what your thoughts are and see if you too can match what the authorities and everyone else was saying about the extreme heat conditions out there. How it can get very brutal on a very quick basis. So, all right, everybody. Thanks again as always. Take care. Bye.